Welcome back here to Tailgate TV, and we are going to do some power rankings of NFL teams. And Brad,
write these down.
Yeah, write these down. If you're placing futures, make sure that you take our advice because we are the experts at nothing.
And if you write these down and do what you said about the futures, it'll be in the past.
But a little bit. So one thing we have done, we're structuring this pick a little differently, is me and Brad have actually discussed these and agreed on them, which is surprising for us.
This is the football special. That
was not an effect. That was Brad actually echoing himself. But no, so we have our top 12. We're going to do a top 10, but we decided, no, we're going to give you bonus picks. So we are going to do top 12 power rankings of NFL teams, and without further ado, we're going to jump into this. And number 12, we're going to start from the bottom and work our way to the best teams in the NFL. There's no debate.
This is not conference. This is the entire NFL. We're not sectioning off in AFC, NFC. In top 12 teams, we're going deep. We're almost going a third of the way. Well, I guess we are going a third of the way.
More than third. There's 32 teams.
Oh, 32. Okay. I was thinking 36. But, yeah, that shows you how much I know. The bottom four teams aren't very good.
Avid football fan, are you? Number 12. Cleveland Browns.
The Browns.
So, and we put them there basically because I'm a believer in Deshaun Watson. So that is why they're there. Now it is 12. Didn't crack the top 10. Couldn't put him up there. Haven't seen the kid play football in a couple years.
I heard.
What'd you hear?
Why he signed at Cleveland.
Guaranteed.
Guaranteed what?
Money.
Oh, guaranteed money. Yeah. Okay, that's good.
Anybody offers me guaranteed money, I'm going there too. If there's any other podcast out there that wants to get me away from Brad, if you offer me some guaranteed money, I might say yes. But yeah, so the Browns are our number 12 pick.
Okay, so the Browns number 12 pick,
just outside the top 10.
Well, yeah. Maybe a little shaky on that pick because that's a tough spot. That's kind of rolling the dice there a little bit.
We had 3 or 4 teams that could have been the 12th team, and we elected with the Browns. I pushed a little bit,
and I think there's one team that we left off of this that could take over that number 12 spot. But we'll get to that later.
So we're not putting a 13th team.
No, we can't do that. So the number 11 team. Now,
I hate this, and this is why we decided you could read this pick, Brad.
Yes. So, and I almost can't say it because we both aren't really big fans of the Dallas Cowboys.
We can just put there. You said it.
I know. I didn't want to.
I was going to say we could just put the name at the bottom. We didn't have to. We can wash our mouth out with some soap. If there's any soap companies that want to sponsor us, we will put your soap in Brad's mouth after saying that dirty word.
So the Cowboys freed up a lot of money. I think $10 million by releasing Elliott.
Which not only did they free up
now and later.
Yeah, not only did they free up the money by doing that, they got rid of a washed-up talent.
Well, and you know, when you have people on your team that have struggled, right, have once had success and now are struggling, and I'm sure there's many reasons why that's happening. But sometimes those guys can be a real cancer in your locker room, and I think
no
that's
question.
Not. And when you have kind of two bulls in the woods, obviously you've got Elliott, and then you had
Dak.
I think look kind of who's the leader of the team.
Mm-hmm.
Probably a good idea to move away from Elliott. I think the upside with Prescott's maybe a little bit better now at this point in their careers.
Well, not only that, but you had. Forget the young man's name, but the other gentleman that had the predominant number of carries for the Cowboys Pollard. Yes, you had Pollard come on the scene the way he did.
Yes.
And there you had no need for Zeke.
Right.
And you were able to free up the space and maybe cure some locker room issues. And of course, quickly note that they also, Micah Parsons holding down the defense. On Sundays, it's hard for me.
Right.
Because I like watching that young defense that the Cowboys has. Trayvon Diggs on the side. I mean, they have some young guys on defense that make plays. And it's fun to watch, and I find myself rooting for those guys and still hitting the stars on their helmet.
Yeah. Well, and there's a couple of kids that, and I say kids because I'm old, but it's a couple of young men, I'll say it that way, that the Cowboys, this is not including Elliott, because they didn't take a chance on Elliott. He came out, he was
a stud for a couple years.
But they took a chance on a wide receiver that didn't really pay off very well, I didn't think. Or at least what they felt like he was going to. Mm-hmm. And I'm not talking about Lamb. I'm talking about the other guy they had for a year.
Amari.
Or two. Yeah.
Well, no, I think they still have Amari. Amari came from the Raiders.
Okay, yes.
Raider gives up everybody.
But I think they thought he was going to be much better than what he is, right? I think he was going to be a number one big time, and he kind of turned into kind of a...
Well, I think you had the 1-2 punch with him and Lamb.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
You're still pretty salty.
A 1B, though. I think they thought he was going to be the predominant 1A. Mm-hmm. Obviously, CeeDee Lamb. Now, CeeDee Lamb, again... he struggles catching the football. Well, and that's going to be a big thing.
I always say the same thing every time I talk about CeeDee Lamb. He makes some of the craziest catches I've ever seen and can bring in balls that nobody should be able to catch. And then he drops balls that hit his numbers.
Well, there's another team higher on the list has the same issue.
Absolutely.
But number 10.
We're breaking into the top 10 now. 10 on the list is a team that if they can stay healthy, I love their coach. I love their culture. I like a lot of I love their weather. I love a lot of things they do with the Miami Dolphins. If Tua can watch his head a little bit, maybe put 2 helmets on him, double wrap it, and if Mike McDaniel keeps up the culture he's building out there, they got Jalen Ramsey now locking down a corner for him. And I know he's struggling with some injuries right now, but if they can get healthy and Mike McDaniel has a healthy team to coach.
And Tyreek Hill stretching the defense, that
absolutely.
Always because, again, when you have to defend 30 and 40 and 50 yards down the field, obviously your safeties are deeper. Now your corners have to be in that middle area, and that makes that more wide open. Your linebackers have to cover more ground. It just makes the whole thing better.
Absolutely. And I don't know how common cheetahs are in Miami, but I know they're happy with that one.
Absolutely. So number 9.
Did you want to read 9 or do you want me to?
I'll let you, but...
No, you won't.
Okay, I'll take it.
Yeah, why don't you take number 9?
And this is almost a Browns pick for me, because it could be shaky one way or the other. This could be a really good pick or make me look really foolish.
You know what? I'll co-sign this one, though, because I agreed with putting them at 9. Okay. I mean, I think that it's a strong pick.
Okay, well, and I know why you think it's a strong pick. The Denver Broncos. Obviously, Sean Payton coming in is going to help. If nothing else, it's going to help the Broncos solidify some things.
Absolutely.
And really have a game plan. Last year, and again, I watched every Bronco game last year, so I wasted several hours watching football. But the Broncos last year never looked like they had a plan. They never looked like they
lose every game.
Well, they did successful then.
Yeah.
But they never looked like they had a plan on offense to attack teams' weaknesses. They looked like, okay, this is the plays we're going to run, and they weren't successful at that. I looked at Wilson last year. Obviously, he didn't do the things that I think the Bronco team and the fans really thought he would. I think Peyton's going to help him with that. I think Peyton does a great job of that. This is the young man I was talking about that kind of has the same problem as CeeDee Lamb does. That Jerry Jeudy, mercy.
Supposed to be a stud.
Looks good.
Hadn't seen it yet.
Well, I'm going to tell you, he dropped some balls that are, and he did it the other day in a preseason game, dropped a ball right in his hands, and then they came right back to him, and that's what I'm talking about.
And I say that's something that Peyton will, and because Peyton is the kind of coach too that he's not going to tolerate. He's going to work if you're willing to do what he wants you to do.
Right.
He's going to work with you, and if you're not, I've seen guys come through the Saints. I've been a lifelong Saints fan. I've seen guys come through the Saints organization as future Hall of Famers, and he's cut them after a week because he said, "I'm not working with you." And so I think Peyton coming in and running that organization is definitely going to help. And that definitely is what, they have Wilson, who's a heck of a quarterback, but then they have a coach there with him. And I think, and the other thing that you're forgetting, and I'm surprised you don't know this as a Broncos fan, is the Broncos now have one of the best kickers in the
Don't
NFL.
even start. So Samaje Perine, they signed, and a lot of times I worry about teams signing veteran running backs.
Yeah,
But there's a lot of tread on Perine because he wasn't the starter in his other place. He was coming in third down, or he'd come in short yardage, those type of things. I saw him run the other day. Was hurt in college, I think, 1 year, but has really not had a series of injuries. So you look at him and you say, okay, maybe he's got the veteran mind, but yet more of a rookie or first, second year running back's body, because he hasn't had that pounding that a lot of those veteran running backs get.
Well, and not even that. I agree with that. But you also look, and we'll wrap this pick up and move on, but you also look at Peyton throughout his career has taken veteran guys and been able to use them in a limited capacity but get peak potential out of them. I think of, and this is a guy that I mentioned, he cut him after a couple weeks because he wasn't working out, but they had Adrian Peterson, the Saints did at the end, and they would use him as a third down, as an option. They would use him in ways that you're like, okay, he's too beat up to be every carrier, but he's going to contribute in big ways, and Sean does that well.
Yeah.
So moving on now, I'll let you have the 9. I'm going to take the 8, and glad to see them above the Broncos. Really glad to see them above the Cowboys.
Correct.
That's what makes me happy.
That's the whole thing.
But number 8, the New Orleans Saints, Who Dat Nation. And, the addition of Derek Carr, I think,
looked good the other day, by the way.
Did look good in that preseason game where they beat the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yep.
Held Patrick Mahomes on a 4th down. Mm-hmm. Defense looked good. And that's, I could go on, obviously, for a long time about the Saints. Not going to do that. I want to mention 3 things that I think is going to help them, and obviously Carr is one. Carr makes them, I think, Carr is the best quarterback in that division now. Granted, very weak division. You got, Atlanta, you got Carolina, and you got the Saints, you got Tampa. So not a lot of competition, but I think Carr is now the best quarterback in that division. Also, big note is Michael Thomas, who has played a few games in the last 3 years. He's had some injuries. He had some holdout deals. He's had some different issues. But he's a Pro Bowl receiver who actually holds the NFL record for most receptions in a season. I mean, dude is a stud, and he's coming back this year, and I think he's coming back excited to play with Carr. So that's going to be strong. And then they've had, over the last 3 years, a top 5 defense. Their defense the last few years has been outstanding. They've struggled offensively. And so now if Carr and Thomas and Kamara can brighten up the offense, and they've only gotten stronger in every situation. They've gotten stronger with this second-year Chris Olave receiver. They've gotten stronger with they added Tyrann Mathieu on the defensive end. I mean, they've made additions, and they haven't really lost anything. Their only weak spot's their coach. Not a huge Dennis Allen fan, but if he pulls it together, they have the team to go deep.
And it's one of those things you can say with Carr. I don't think if Carr stays with the Raiders, they're not far off this top 12 list. They may be lower than the 12.
They're on the list.
Well, or they could be on the list, right?
At that point.
But now, and you take Carr off the Saints, they're not on the list.
You got Jameis Winston still.
They're not on the list. But with Carr, I think that really, in the one big, in my opinion, big glowing concern, because you can say Jameis Winston, but he gets hurt every day. I walk into practice, he twists an ankle or something.
I don't know why he doesn't drive.
So that really, because Carr doesn't have injury issues.
No.
That guy is a gamer there, and he's won a lot of games. And he does. So that's the number 8 pick. Number 7 pick. And now we're getting up there, guys.
We're getting in the meat of it.
Down to the nitty-gritty.
Yeah.
The Jacksonville Jaguars.
Heck of a team.
I am so impressed with Lawrence. What a great job he does at quarterback. And I like their coach.
Peterson's great.
I like their defense. I like a lot of things about them. And you see, so many times in NFL, you see those stair steps, right?
Mm-hmm.
Winning record, playoffs, right, and then taking those next steps. Now, you're going to have anomalies from time to time where they just, boom, all of a sudden they get one guy that's a key thing and they jump straight up there.
Have a couple in mind. I think our number one pick may be one.
But the Jaguars are doing a great job of just working and doing the things they need to do to get better every year.
Yes, agree. And one thing when I look at the higher folks on our list here, everybody has something in common. They have additions to an already good team that is just going to make them pop. And same thing with Jacksonville. The addition of Calvin Ridley at wide receiver, a veteran out there to give a younger quarterback some, I don't want to say advice, that's not really the word I'm looking for, but maybe some encouragement and some comfortability. You know, somebody that he's, okay, I'm comfortable throwing to this.
Is that a word? Comfortability?
It is now.
Okay, comfortability.
But some comfortability. I've seen this dude catch balls for years. I know he can catch mine. I'm going to throw it to him. And I think that safety net maybe is a better way to put it.
Okay.
But giving him that safety net, that veteran safety net out there is going to bode well for Jacksonville.
I agree. And I when he was at Clemson, talking about Trevor Lawrence again, when he was at Clemson, you really saw some things. Of course, everybody was glowing about him, and everybody was saying all these things, and you watched him. And
Sunshine really can play.
I didn't realize how big that kid is. He's humongous.
Yeah.
And again, smart young man, throws the ball well, does a lot of things really, really well, and you can see.
They say if his hair was on a shorter guy, it'd reach his butt.
Maybe so. The number 6 pick.
Number 6, this team, maybe they should be higher, maybe they should be lower, but we have them at 6 because it's just it's hard to put them anywhere else. But the 49ers, and they would be higher, but there is the quarterback question. I mean, Mr. Irrelevant, Brock Purdy, last pick in the NFL draft, came on looking like a man. I mean, he was playing football and playing it well at a high level.
Yeah, absolutely.
And now, you got the Trey Lance question because Purdy hurt his elbow. Trey's playing for him. Trey's going to play well. Is he going to play as well as Purdy? I guess here's the question. Is there going to be quarterback controversy in the middle of the season?
Sure.
Because that never goes well for a team.
Well, because when Purdy heals,
what are you going to do?
Wow, now what do you do?
And is Trey's head the whole time going to be like, I'm about to give this up? I mean, that whole quarterback question in the middle of a season never turns out well in your locker room, never turns out well. It never translates well on the field. So that's the big question mark there. They do have a good defense.
Right.
They do have some really great pieces on offense, and they do have 2 good quarterbacks.
Yep.
And then they have a third quarterback, Brandon Allen, who Arkansas guy. You got to like him.
Well, and their division isn't tough.
No.
I mean, the Rams.
And they have a coach.
I don't know what. Who we talking? Oh yeah, 49. Yeah. I agree. I think he's a good coach. I think he does a lot of good things well, and
I think he can pivot to his personnel.
Correct.
We always talk about. We harp on it when we talk to coaches. Is can you pivot to your personnel? So I think whether he has Trey Lance or whether he has Brock Purdy, he's going to do well. So I think that speaks volumes.
Absolutely. And I like the 49ers for a lot of reasons. But the reason they're at 6 is because there's so many question marks and there's so many hesitations about saying, they're a true top tier team.
Mm-hmm.
Number 5.
But now we get to the top tier.
Now we're in the top 5. Now, this may be, in my humble opinion, the most controversial out of the next 5.
Oh, I think it's easy.
I know you do. But I don't. The New York Jets.
What's wrong with them?
Well,
they were good last year with the so-so quarterback play, bringing everybody back and adding Aaron Rodgers. What? My only hesitation.
I struggle with Rodgers a little bit because he is such. He can be, or let me say this: what's sometimes talked about on the sports whatevers.
Talking heads
like us is that he can be a little bit of a head case. Now, I've heard that he's bought in. I've heard that he's doing everything that he's asked to do. Now,
I heard he's going to Taylor Swift concerts in New York with his team. I mean, what's wrong with that?
well, they're Taylor Swift. But nonetheless, you just look at things and you go, okay, but wait, how much of that, right, was because of where he was playing?
Was he unhappy there, and now he's happy where he's at now?
And does he feel like that I think a lot of the problem that he had in Green Bay was that he felt like that he wasn't wanted or needed or really.
Nobody ever thrives in a relationship where they don't feel wanted. That goes outside of sports. That goes out of anything. And I agree with you. How much did he feel wanted?
I don't know. We'd have to talk to Dr. Ruth about that.
We'll have to call.
Yeah. So the number 5 pick, the New York Jets.
Yep. Number 4.
Now, I think and I left a little gap in my paper here when I was writing these down. I think these 4 have set themselves apart as the elite of the elite.
Yes.
You may lose to one of these bottom tier teams, but they're going to be the favorites in every one of these matchups against the number 5 down.
And that's what I was going to say. I don't think that anybody watching this can question these 4. Now, with that being said, you may question the order of these 4, but I think these are the top 4 teams in the NFL, without a doubt. Rank them how you will, but these are the best 4 teams in the National Football League.
And I think there's a piece of paper width difference between these 4 teams.
Absolutely. And so with that being said, the number 4 team, the Buffalo Bills. I think the big thing about the Bills is I think they've been a top 3, 4, or 5 team for the last 4 or 5 years, and you still ask the question, what have they done with it?
Right.
And so that's why they're 4, and the other 3 are ahead of them. Correct. Because they have the talent, they have the coach, they have the system, but they still haven't got over the hump. So can they this year?
And you have to break through at some point.
You have to.
At some point, you can't keep knocking on the door and expect especially these other 4.
They're not moving.
Teams, they're
not opening it for you.
Yeah, they're not opening it. They're not saying, "Come on in, we want you to join our party." They're saying you got to tear down the door and possibly the house as well.
And at some point, you have to say, "I don't want to be number 4 anymore. I want to be number 1."
Absolutely,
and make the move.
Absolutely,
and they have the pieces to do it. That's
agree.
why they're where they're at.
Yep,
they just haven't done it yet.
And I'm going to tell you, it's funny to me that the top 4 teams are in the top half of our country. So home field advantage late in the season becomes more and more of a benefit, a bonus to them. Mm-hmm. I think that's a little telling. And I'm not trying to read too much into that, but I remember when I was a kid, if you went to Lambeau Field or if you went to Chicago Soldier Field late in the season, that was not a fun trip. If you went to Buffalo in the late part of the season, it was not a fun trip. You go to Arizona, you go to Dallas, you go to Houston, no big deal.
Go to Miami.
Yeah, we'll take our shorts and our flip-flops and we're fine. But, yeah.
We should call a game from there.
But Josh Allen and Diggs, good offense. They struggle, I think. And they look like they're really good on defense.
They got pieces, man.
You're
talking about defensive players.
Up until
it's time to stop somebody.
Yeah.
In the postseason.
Struggle.
You got to make a play.
Got to make one.
They're not doing it.
Nope.
So, number 3 is me or you.
It's me.
Who you got? You got both the hard one. You got the Cowboys and number 3. You got I don't know how I lucked into what I got.
And I'll tell you,
they are a top 3 team in the NFL.
No question.
There's as much as we may not want them to be because we aren't necessarily fans of this team, they're a top 3 team in the NFL.
They are. And again, you have to appreciate greatness when you see it. You have to appreciate teams that are successful and put things together. And
continue their success.
Absolutely. Because back again in '85, the Chicago Bears were phenomenal, and they were wrecking the entire league. They just wrecked people. One time.
Yeah.
Right? One time. This team has continued
to wreck people.
Yes. for
over and over.
Yeah, and losing pieces, and they're still
wrecking people. Losing pieces that are supposed to be detrimental. Oh, they can't play good without him.
Right.
Let's go win a Super Bowl.
So the number 3 pick, the Kansas City Chiefs. And
Mahomes. I mean, that's enough.
Well, Mahomes, again, Kelsey, I'm not a fan, but again, you have to respect.
And
their defense, so good. And we talked about the Bills, how they couldn't stop people when it comes down to time. The Chiefs do a great job of playing defense when it comes down to it. They do it real, and again, it's moving the football. You know, they lose a running back, really good running back, went to Cleveland, really good running back because of some off the field stuff.
And then they have another really good running back.
And then they go, oh crap, what are we going to do? And then they just fill him in and keep rolling.
And I think
they lose a wide receiver.
Yep.
And oh my goodness, what are we going to do? Okay, they're still a top offense in the league.
Absolutely.
Again, Andy Reid deserves a lot of
That's
credit.
exactly where I was going with that. I think he's getting real close to being in the, I think Tom Landry's record of I think top 5 wins, like he's getting really close to that. I mean, he's out there coaching his butt off.
Yep.
And he has some really talented guys to help him do. And, that's when you get a combination of a good coach and a good team, you're going to be dangerous. And that's what Kansas City's done.
Absolutely.
They've gotten a good coach and they've gotten a good team and they've put it together.
Absolutely. Number 2.
So enough said about the Kansas City Chiefs.
Please.
They are a top 3 team in the NFL, and we have them where we think they deserve, but you could argue 1 or 2. We're going to keep them at 3.
Again, interchangeable. The top 3.
The top 4.
Maybe. I would say the top 3 for sure.
Yes.
Obviously, the Bills are in that mix, but the top 3 are interchangeable in this order.
Yes, these top 3 are top 3, but you can argue where they go.
Right.
With that being said, the number 2 pick, the Eagles. And I just think that what we saw from them, Nick Sirianni did amazing firing that bunch up. What impressed me the most about their run last year was Jalen Hurts' attitude. Jalen Hurts, I mean, obviously his talent's there. But once you get to the NFL, a lot of guys are talented. A lot of quarterbacks can play ball, but who has the right mindset, the right coachability, and knows the X's and O's of the game? And I think he comes from a coaching family, and you could just tell he knows what he's doing when it comes to playing football.
Well, some people forget he was at Alabama. I mean,
you don't get much better than that.
Yeah, and then he moves to Oklahoma.
It's a lot better than that.
After 2 straight Heisman Trophy winning quarterbacks were there. Comes in there, and you can talk about Lincoln Riley and all this stuff, but if you don't have the talent, it doesn't matter who your quarterback is. What did they do last year? USC? Not much. They won the big whatever that is out there, the Pac whatever. Who cares?
Yeah.
I mean, what have you done, right? So, and I'm not saying they're not going to be good this year. They are. I'm not doubting it. But my point is, he's got talent there at quarterback, right?
Yeah.
So, I was the most impressed, I think, with Jalen Hurts.
Yes.
What a phenomenal, and like you said, quality young man.
Absolutely. I think I'll say that all of our teams on the top 4, which we've kind of agreed the top 3 or top 4 are you've got the top 4 than everybody else.
Yep.
And I think if you look at all of these top 4 teams, they have a quarterback who's not only a good quarterback, but is a good leader. I think you have that in Josh Allen. I think you have that in Mahomes. I think you have that in Hurts. I think you have that with our number 1 guy.
Yeah.
I think that makes a difference.
It does. And I think that's why the Jaguars at 7 are slowly, and I say slowly, but moving up this list. I mean, what has he been there? 2 years?
Well,
is this his 3rd year?
I think that's
they're
why
moving up in the top 7 and top 10. That's pretty good.
I think that's why you don't have the Jets higher, because as we talked about,
Correct.
there's issues of obviously Rodgers, as far as talent, is just as good as Mahomes, as Allen, as Hurts, maybe better.
Correct.
But when it comes to leading the team and being a quality stand-up guy, it doesn't. We don't know him personally. We
and
don't
the
know,
Niners,
but it doesn't.
Same thing.
Yeah, it doesn't appear that they're that way. These dudes appear to be leading their team to success.
Yep, I agree wholeheartedly.
That brings us to number 1.
Number 1, and again, a lot of Chiefs may not agree with this. examine your mind and examine your heart. And again, like I said, the number
Don't partake in this communion if you're not ready.
1, 2, 3 are interchangeable here. But to me, the number one
To
team.
us, I'll co-sign this.
Yeah, to us, the number one team power ranking for 2023, the Cincinnati Bengals. Burrow.
Even with Burrow's calf injury.
The kid, I am not an LSU fan at all.
I'm a Razorback fan, man. I hate LSU.
Saw them in the run to the national championship. Thought, boy, this kid's overrated. He's just having a great year. It's just one of those.
I thought the same.
Yeah, just one of those things. And then he goes to the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm like, his career is over. That franchise,
hit every play.
Well, and that franchise is absolutely.
It's a joke.
Yeah, it can be.
It
ain't no more.
If we're ranking jokes, it might be top 5. It'd have to go after Snyder's team, but
correct. But I think the coach's name is Taylor. There, Coach Zach Taylor.
Yep.
He turned that whole program.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, we talk about so many times, and you mentioned it, in buying in. Well, if your quarterback buys into your program because he's the leader of your team, and again, we talked about Burrow and Hurts and Mahomes and Allen all being leaders. If Mahomes doesn't buy into what Andy Reid's doing, they're not as successful.
Agreed.
Same thing with Hurts, same thing with Josh Allen. You look at Burrow, and he has bought in and said, hey, we're running behind this coach. Let's go. And everybody has stepped in line and started doing what they need to do because, you can have a great quarterback, and I can think of many great quarterbacks that have been around this league. But if the guys don't get behind them and everybody pull the same direction, you're not going to be successful. And you see that with the Bengals. And I am super impressed. And I still hate their helmets. I still hate a lot of things about the Cincinnati Bengals. But the one thing I don't dislike about the Bengals is the way they play.
Well, and let me add this one thing before we wrap this up about the Bengals, though. The best thing they've done is get rid of Eli Apple. That man, that is a bone I have.
He played what? What position?
He played corner.
He was a cornerback.
And the worst corner I have ever seen in the NFL. And I tell you why I hate him so much.
I was going to say, hey, Cody, who did he play for before he went to Cincinnati?
New Orleans. And was absolutely when they got rid of him, I think that's when we started having a top 5 defense. And
is he a Super Bowl champion with the Saints?
No.
Okay.
No. They wouldn't have won a Super Bowl if they had him covering somebody. The only thing that he should be covering is his face. But no, they got rid of him.
Mr. Apple, you can find him on
wherever you want, buddy. But yeah, I think the Bengals are a solid number 1 pick.
Well, and again,
so let's just
if I told you that any of those top 4 teams won the Super Bowl this year,
wouldn't be surprised.
Now, anybody below that,
I'd be surprised because they have to go through those top 4.
Correct. That's the struggle.
Now, if you tell me any of those bottom 4 teams met one of those teams in the Super Bowl,
right?
If you tell me, Browns match up against, pick one of those top 4 teams, right. I believe it, but I wouldn't believe they won it.
Yeah. It is an exciting time of year because you can do this type of thing, right? It's the same thing you can do in high school football. Sit around and talk about, well, in this district, these people are going to win because they're this and this. Now, there are some teams, obviously, every year that you can write in because they're always solid. Same thing you can do right now in the NFL. You can write in some teams and go, one of these 4 teams are making the playoffs.
We should do that. Do you want to do a power ranking of Bates County football teams real quick?
I do not.
You don't want to get canceled?
I do not.
But that's going to do it here for our Tailgate picks and for this episode of Tailgate TV. I hope y'all enjoyed watching this and our picks as much as we enjoyed doing it. Do want to thank a few sponsors. Butler Chamber of Commerce, who has a lot of great events. Huckster's Day is coming up. You can find us at, or them, as I am a part of it. But you can find them at the office here, 112 West Dakota. Come sign up for Huckster's Day. 03 Customs, who now I have seen, not only are they doing hats, but they have just done a baseball glove. They had done some engraving on a baseball glove.
Yeah,
so
that was really nice.
They're doing cool stuff. If you need anything engraved, any kind of leatherwork stuff, hit up 03 Customs. Dude is amazing. We also have Prepcast, who, as football season's getting ready, we're previewing all of these. I know there's a couple Friday games I'm going to miss. I'll be tuning in to listen to Brad call those games on Prepcast, so check them out. We also have Sonic, who is continually hooking us up. So we appreciate Sonic. And surely we got Mid-America, who is going to be covering these. You can read about a lot of these games in Mid-America if you miss it. And we just want to thank all of our sponsors.
Emmanuel Baptist Church, appreciate you.
Absolutely. Which, after Good Friday night lights, you go out to church, then go sit at home and watch the game. Make sure you go out there. Scott does a great job preaching. He's almost as good at playing slow pitch softball, too. He
must be pretty good then.
Heck of a left fielder. But yeah, we just want to thank all of our sponsors that make this possible. If you want to come on board and help us, let us know. Reach out to us. But for this episode, I'm Cody Morris. This is Brad Davis. Thanks for watching Tailgate TV.
If you don't like our picks, get your own show.
What he said. We'll see you next time.